The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says regime forces have recaptured the Daesh-held town of Al-Bab in Aleppo province. Forces backed by Hezbollah militants began their offensive last month. The recapture of Al-Bab and two other nearby towns has placed Assad's troops a few hundred meters away from Turkish-backed opposition fighters. Both groups are trying to push Daesh out of the area. Well, TRT1's Iolo Dafydd is following the story from Gaziantep. That's in Turkey, near the border with Syria. He joins us now live. Iolo, some interesting developments then in and around Al-Bab. What is the latest?
Significant as well, as far as we know. The last 24 hours has been really significant because we're having the Syrian regime forces pushing ever closer to Al-Bab. Al-Bab is this town which is pretty strategic for the Turkish forces and the Free Syrian Army forces who have been working with the Turkish government in that operation Euphrates Shield in the north of Syria to try and secure the border of Turkey. But after the fall of East Aleppo and the success of the Syrian regime forces, well, they've kept on pushing further to the east. Now, what's happened in the last 24 hours is pretty strategic in terms of the main route out of Al-Bab for Daesh has been closed off by the Syrian regime forces. Two villages which were yesterday, on Sunday, in the hands of the FSA have fallen back into Daesh hands after some heavy fighting and suicide bombs, as we understand, in the last 24 hours. Now, trying to verify exactly what's happening where is difficult in terms of behind the Turkish troops and the FSA, as well as behind the Syrian regime forces. So we're depending, like most of the international media, on the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights in terms of what's happening on the ground. It's very, very strategic because if Al-Bab falls, and this has been a 3-week offensive now by almost an international task force of Syrian forces, Hezbollah forces and Russian artillery and Russian tanks, if that falls, it opens up the routes further south towards Raqqa, which is the headquarters of Daesh in Syria.
So that's how the situation is playing out right now on the ground. But what about the diplomacy and the diplomatic efforts to try and end this 6-year-long conflict now? The talks are in Astana, the peace process there. What is the very latest?
Well, they almost go hand in hand, don't they? And not just in this conflict, but other conflicts as well. The Syrian regime forces are obviously buoyed by what happened in eastern Aleppo, and they're trying to change the facts on the ground. In the meantime, of course, this diplomacy by Russia, by Turkey, by Iran continues. So they're gathering again for technical and practical talks in Astana in terms of trying to take the talks of 23rd, 24th of January even further, not just to hold a ceasefire, a pretty fragile ceasefire at times, but to try and secure a long-standing peace in Syria, especially after, you say, 6 years of fighting. So that's what they're trying to do. And what's new this time is that the United Nations are there, also Jordan. And this follows a meeting between Donald Trump, the new US president, and King Abdullah in Jordan because of, if you remember, this idea that was floated by the US president of safe zones, but there were no details. Now, the speculation is, if Jordan is involved and Jordan is part of these talks in Astana, then are we looking at potentially a safe zone in the south of Syria bordering Jordan? That's only speculation, but the practical talks in Astana in terms of how to now deliver a peace for the people in Syria, well, that is ongoing. In the meantime, of course, we have all these renewed fighting, especially around Al-Bab, and that has been pretty significant in the past 24 hours.
OK, Iolo, thank you.